Lily Brooks adjusted the strap of her worn tote bag as she stepped out of the supermarket, the afternoon sun casting a warm glow on the quiet street. Her hands, calloused from hours at the checkout register, trembled just slightly, not from nerves, but from the excitement that had been building inside her for months. Today was the day she had set aside after scrimping and saving every spare penny and skipping countless small indulgences, her weekend stay at the Seabreeze Resort. She wore a plain, faded dress she'd bought from a second-hand shop, the fabric soft from years of wear. Her shoes had seen better days too, the soles peeling slightly, but it was what she could afford. Her tote carried only a few essentials, nothing that could hint at luxury. She rehearsed in her mind the pronunciation of Seabreeze, worried it might come out wrong when she arrived. As she approached the imposing glass doors of the resort, her breath caught. The grand lobby unfolded before her like something from a magazine, gleaming marble floors, soaring crystal chandeliers that caught the light and scattered it like stars, and the gentle scent of fresh orchids perfuming the air. Guests in elegant attire moved gracefully about, sipping drinks beneath the glow of ornate sconces. Lily's heart beat fast as she stepped up to the check-in desk. The receptionist, polished and poised, glanced at her with a raised brow. "Do you really expect us to believe you booked this yourself?" the woman said loud enough for nearby guests to hear, her tone dripping with disbelief and thinly veiled mockery. Someone must have made a mistake. The whispered ripples from the gathered guests felt like cold water splashing on Lily's face. Her cheeks heated, eyes downcast, she felt suddenly invisible, too small, too simple, and utterly out of place. The dream she had cherished so long now seemed impossibly distant. As the receptionist's words echoed through the marble lobby, a few guests glanced over with varying expressions. Some smirked, sharing quick, sideways glances that whispered agreement with her dismissive tone. A group of women sitting nearby exchanged amused chuckles, their eyes lingering on Lily as if she was a spectacle rather than a person. A man in a tailored suit caught Lily's eye for a brief second, his mouth tightening into a thin line before he turned away, uncertain whether to intervene or ignore the scene. Lily stood frozen, the sting of humiliation slicing through her. Her fingers clenched the strap of her tote bag, knuckles widening under pressure as the room felt heavier with every judging look. She had anticipated feeling out of place, but not this raw derision. Despite the rehearsed speech she had run through during the bus ride here, words caught and dissolved on her tongue. Quietly, she nodded and stepped back, turning without meeting anyone's eye. A discreet staff member appeared beside her, gently urging her towards the exit. Lily didn't resist, the crushing weight of embarrassment made her movements slow and uncertain. Once outside, she found a wooden bench beneath the shade of swaying palm trees by the ocean promenade. The salty breeze tangled her hair as she sank onto the worn seat, the sound of distant waves mingling with the murmurs of the crowd still inside. Her breath hitched as tears pricked the corners of her eyes, quickly wiped away before they could fall. The injustice felt sharp and relentless, a cruel puncture to a fragile hope she'd nursed for so long. Lily's mind wandered back, tracing the path that had brought her here. She remembered the countless shifts spent manning the checkout lane, the beep-beep of scanners marking her hours, tallying into wages barely enough to cover rent and daily expenses. She thought of the dinners she'd skipped, bowls of instant noodles replacing the meals she could no longer afford. The shoes she'd patched with glue when the soles wore thin, the light bulbs she refused to replace to save electricity, every sacrificed comfort pieced together to make this weekend possible. It hadn't just been a moment of escape, it was an act of healing. Her doctor, after a checkup 6 months ago, had suggested the coastal air might ease her growing asthma, a condition that made every breath sometimes feel like a battle. When Lily first passed by the Seabreeze Resort on her way home from the market, she had touched the wrought iron gate, whispering to herself, "One day, I'll step through there." Snapshots flickered in her memory, sitting at the bus stop during cold mornings, the early sun kissing the horizon, imagining the endless ocean beyond the resort walls. Smiles shared with strangers during holidays when she had handed out candies to neighborhood children, small joys tucked away like precious gems to cherish. She had never imagined anyone at the resort would see her as anything but a guest like any other, deserving of kindness and dignity. Her chest tightened with the recalled pain of the earlier moment, the receptionist's sneer etching itself like a cruel signature on her spirit. The whispers, the sideways glances, they had all reinforced a truth painfully clear to her now. In places layered with luxury and wealth, her simple presence was seen as a blemish, a joke encased in disbelief. Yet, amidst the ache, a faint ember of resilience glowed. Lily remembered the nights she had sat alone after work, drafting plans not just for today, but for a future where she could breathe easier, literally and figuratively. While others rested, she worked double shifts, stitching together her days with quiet determination. The storm of humiliation did not erase the years of fortitude that had brought her here. The salty breeze carried in a stray laugh from children playing nearby, mirroring a hope Lily clung to. As her tear-blurred gaze fixed on the horizon, the sun dipped lower, turning the sky a soft peach. She reached into her tote bag and pulled out the small notebook she'd brought, a journal where she documented moments of gratitude, sketches of dreams, and plans for days ahead. Her fingers trembled as she opened it, smoothing the pages to a list titled, "Things I Can Do." The list was modest: take a long walk, call a friend, report the broken streetlight near her apartment. Subtle acts, perhaps, but steps toward reclaiming her day. Her eyes lingered on the words as a slow, steady breath filled her lungs, the coolness softening the ache. The bench creaked beneath her as she shifted, feeling the heavy weight of the moment but also aware of the quiet courage blossoming within. The crowd inside may have defined her as an outsider in that space, but she was not the sum of their stares or sneers. She was more than their judgments. Around her, the world carried on. Seagulls wheeled overhead, their calls sharp in the twilight air. Lily smoothed the creases of her dress, wiped a final tear, and rose slowly. The path ahead was unclear, but the choice to stand again was hers. The bench by the ocean, once a refuge from heartbreak, became a place to gather strength. Her heart still bruised, yes, but a pulse of quiet defiance stirred. Knowing it was time to continue, she gathered her belongings and walked away from the resort's glittering facade, stepping into the softly darkening streets with a mind already turning toward how she might still find peace beyond the walls that had rejected her. Lily strolled away from the grandeur of the Seabreeze Resort, the fading light casting long shadows across the cobbled sidewalk. The weight in her chest hadn't lessened entirely, but she was determined not to be defined by what had just happened. Her steps were slow but purposeful, each footfall a quiet act of resilience. The world beyond the lobby's towering glass doors was no less complex, no less demanding, but here, at least, she could breathe on her own terms. Circling back toward the street that ran adjacent to the resort's sprawling grounds, she noticed a small, narrow path veering away from the main entrance, a side alley partially hidden by lush greenery. Curiosity nudged her forward, a need for distraction driving her deeper into the shade of tropical palms and neatly trimmed hedges. The soft hum of resort life dimmed behind her. Ahead, a tall chain-link fence enclosed a maintenance area marked by a faded sign, "Emergency Exit, Authorized Personnel Only." The gate was secured by a hastily applied padlock, wrapped in yellow caution tape that fluttered in the gentle evening breeze. A thin plume of pale smoke curled lazily into the dusky sky from beyond the fence. Lily frowned and approached cautiously. The smoke didn't rise sharply into the air as it would from a chimney or controlled burn. It drifted with an unsettling slow swirl. Concern pressed her chest tight. Something wasn't right. Pausing just beyond the fence's shadow, she caught snippets of a hushed conversation. Two resort staff members, dressed in navy uniforms but clearly uneasy, stood close, their voices low but urgent. "We can't keep the fire exits open," one whispered, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "It'd cost too much to fix all the stuff the inspector flagged last time." The other, a young woman gripping a clipboard, nodded grimly. "Yeah, and without proper certification, management keeps threatening to cut hours or worse. We're stuck hiding the violations this way." Lily's throat tightened. Locked fire exits? Unsafe work conditions? Hidden safety hazards? This wasn't just a minor oversight, it was a serious danger to all guests and staff. Her stomach twisted with unease. Her hands slipped into her tote bag, fingers brushing against her phone. Though she felt every trace of tiredness from years of grinding work, something inside her steadied. This moment called for action, not retreat. Pulling the phone into the light, she dialed the local fire department's non-emergency line. "Hello, yes," Lily began, her voice calm but firm. "I'm calling to report a fire safety hazard at the Seabreeze Resort. The emergency exit by the maintenance area is padlocked shut, and I can see smoke coming from behind the gate. There's definitely a risk here." The operator asked for specifics, address, descriptions, any visible dangers, and Lily answered as clearly as she could. She gave the exact location, reminding herself to breathe even as her heart thumped hard. She ended the call and waited nearby, eyes scanning the dimming surroundings as shadows lengthened. A squirrel scampered through the underbrush, disappearing beneath a pile of discarded boxes. Then, a soft whimper caught Lily's attention. Turning, she spotted a small dog limping hesitantly along the edge of the garbage bins. The animal's coat was matted and dusty, its right hind leg clearly hurting. The dog's eyes flicked toward her, wary but desperate. Despite her exhaustion, Lily crouched and extended a hand. The dog didn't approach, but didn't flee either. "I'm going to call for help," she whispered, pulling out her phone again. The local animal control number was saved under emergency. With a few taps, she reported the animal's condition and location, describing its injury and the neglect evident in the surrounding trash-strewn area. As she stood up, the sound of approaching sirens sliced through the quiet. The fire department's emergency vehicles arrived, their lights painting the trees red and blue. Several firefighters jumped out, speaking quickly into radios and setting up equipment. Lily moved toward them, breath fogging in the cool evening air. "I'm the one who called," she said when an officer turned her way. "There's smoke behind that locked fire exit, and staff admitted they've been keeping it shut to avoid fines." The officer's expression tightened with concern. "Thank you for reporting this. We'll check it out immediately." Nearby, a couple of animal control officers emerged, carrying leashes and medical supplies. They spotted Lily and nodded gratefully as they approached the area where the dog had limped. One crouched beside the animal, speaking gently as they secured it for transport to a veterinary clinic. The sight of the professionals at work gave Lily a sudden surge of comfort. Though the night's earlier shadow lingered, this was a moment of purpose, a way to reclaim some control. As the firefighters climbed over the fence and disappeared behind the gate, Lily noticed a few startled resort guests gathering at a distance. A young woman with an expensive camera pulled out her phone, filming discreetly. Lily caught her eye and gave a small, hesitant smile, nodding silently. A mild breeze stirred the palms around the entrance, carrying with it a mingled scent of salt and faint smoke. The resort's polished exterior seemed less pristine under the flashing emergency lights, the illusion of perfection cracked open by the evening's revelations. The fire chief emerged 20 minutes later, his face stern but composed. "We've found multiple violations," he told the small crowd that included several staff members and onlookers. "The emergency exit was blocked dangerously, and the source of the smoke appears to be an engine malfunction in the maintenance shed. If this fire had spread while guests were inside, it could have been catastrophic." We'll be filing a detailed report." Murmurs rippled through the gathering crowd. Some guests exchanged uneasy glances, others whispered questions to resort employees. Lily stood quietly, her heart steady despite the swelling attention. As animal control loaded the dog into their van for immediate care, the woman who had filmed earlier approached Lily. "Hey, I'm Hannah," she said with a warm smile. "That was really brave of you, speaking up like this." Lily returned the smile, a flicker of warmth brightening her tired eyes. "Thank you, Hannah. I just couldn't ignore it." Before she could say more, a resort manager hurried over, face flushed with a mix of embarrassment and urgency. "Ms. Brooks, I think it's best if you leave now," he said, voice tight. "We'll handle the situation from here." Lily looked at him evenly. "I'm not going anywhere until I know that place is safe for everyone." The manager opened his mouth to protest but thought better of it. With a curt nod, he retreated. As the emergency crews settled into a careful inspection, Lily stood near the edge of the crowd, drawing in deep breaths. Tonight hadn't gone as planned, first rejection, then silence, and now a stark confrontation with reality. But instead of shattering her, the sequence of events forged a renewed sense of resolve. The same place that had rejected her was now exposed for neglect, a reminder that beauty and wealth often hid imperfections beneath polished surfaces. Lily thought of the dog, now safe in the arms of caring strangers, and the fire crew working to prevent disaster. She thought of the weak moments she had already endured, and the strength she had summoned to stand firm. Her phone buzzed softly in her pocket, the screen lighting up with messages from friends. Supportive words, reminders she was not alone. The harshest moments might sting, but they didn't have to silence her. The stars blinked awake overhead as the night deepened. Lily tucked her phone away, her eyes steady on the quiet streets beyond the resort. She knew that while this night was far from the dream she'd hoped to live, it was real, and she was part of it. With a final glance at the flashing lights behind her, she turned and began walking back toward the bus stop, ready to face whatever came next. Within hours of the emergency response at the Seabreeze Resort, a segment of footage recorded by Hannah, the guest who caught Lily's confrontation with the receptionist and her calm reporting of the locked fire exit, began circulating on social media. The video spread rapidly, its clarity and raw authenticity sparking immediate public interest. Millions viewed the succinct clip showing, first, the blatant snub at the check-in desk, then Lily's composed demeanor as she flagged serious safety violations. Comments flooded in under the video. Some frames were punctuated with gasps and expressions of disbelief at the receptionist's scornful words. Many users voiced outrage at the resort's apparent neglect of basic fire safety measures, while others praised Lily's courage. "She stood up when so many would have walked away in silence," wrote one commenter. "This is the dignity that money can't buy." Another user shared a similar story of being dismissed from a posh hotel, sparking a thread of voices recounting experiences of subtle discrimination in luxury spaces. The post quickly became a gathering point for discussions about class, respect, and fairness. As the clip caught fire online, local news stations picked up the story. Interview requests were sent to Lily, whose phone buzzed steadily with messages from reporters, admirers, and even strangers wanting to share their own tales of standing up against dismissive treatment. Meanwhile, Seabreeze Resort's management released a formal statement. They acknowledged the reports, expressing regret for any distress caused to Ms. Brooks and our valued guests. They pledged comprehensive reviews of staff conduct and safety procedures, emphasizing that such violations were not in keeping with our standards. The statement added that the receptionist in question was placed on immediate suspension pending an internal investigation. Despite the company's damage control efforts, the story continued to dominate social media discussions, fueled by eyewitness accounts and shared experiences. Consumers and advocacy groups posted petitions calling for greater transparency and accountability in the hospitality industry. The hashtag Respect for All guests trended regionally, amplifying the conversation around dignity and inclusivity. Inspection teams from the city's fire safety department arrived days later, prompted by Lily's report and the viral exposure. Their comprehensive assessment uncovered more than just the blocked emergency exit. Multiple safety violations were documented, including faulty alarm systems and improperly stored hazardous materials near guest areas. Official citations were issued, leading to temporary closure of the resort's north wing while urgent repairs were mandated. The rescue of the injured stray dog also received local attention. Animal welfare organizations applauded the swift action initiated by Lily, spotlighting the often overlooked presence of animals affected by neglect within such facilities. The dog, named Marley by his rescuers, became a symbol of hope and recovery for community members following the story's emergence. The suspended receptionist, whose name appeared in social media discussions, faced public scrutiny. Online forums debated her attitude as emblematic of deeper systemic issues, pressuring the resort to act decisively. Eventually, after a week of silence and ongoing complaints, the resort announced her termination, citing conduct unbecoming of their brand and values. Within Lily's own neighborhood, the impact of her unexpected role in this unfolding story was profound. Community leaders highlighted her as a figure of resilience and advocacy. Local businesses displayed signs of support, some with messages praising standing up for fairness regardless of background. At community centers, conversations began to mobilize around encouraging more vocal opposition to dismissive treatment in everyday life. Other, simple, customers came forward parallelly, sharing stories of exclusion in places they never thought their voices would matter. Throughout it all, Lily received an outpouring of messages from individuals inspired by her actions. She was invited to speak at local gatherings, participate in public forums concerning consumer rights and inclusivity, and collaborate with grassroots organizations working to foster respectful treatment across social spheres. The Seabreeze Resort, now under intense scrutiny and facing financial repercussions through cancellations and legal citations, announced a series of sweeping changes. Comprehensive staff training sessions centered on customer respect and safety compliance were instituted. Renovations addressed long-standing infrastructure problems, and a public report on progress was promised to regain public trust. This sequence of events ignited a broader dialogue on social media and among local policymakers regarding the intersection of class, customer service, and safety within high-end resorts and restaurants. Lily's story, simple yet powerful, became a touchstone, proof that dignity is not a luxury, and courage can ripple beyond a single moment to create tangible change. Despite the attention and whirlwind of events, Lily herself remained grounded. She navigated the sudden spotlight with quiet resolve, focused on the meaningful ripples her actions had created rather than the glare of fame. The woman who had been reduced to a figure of condescension in a marble lobby was now a symbol of standing tall, dignified, and unyielding. The experience forged a renewed sense of agency in her life. What began as a humble weekend escape transformed into a movement challenging entrenched attitudes in service and society. While the financial cost and effort had once seemed daunting, Lily realized courage and integrity required no wealth at all. Her voice, once soft and tentative, had now found strength echoing far beyond the resort's shining facade. For the first time in a long time, Lily felt seen, not for her simplicity, but for her unshakable humanity. Weeks passed since the whirlwind of news and social media attention that had surrounded Lily Brooks' experience at the Seabreeze Resort. Back in her modest apartment, nestled between the neighborhood grocery and the small laundromat where she often spent her evenings folding clothes, life had settled into its familiar rhythm. Yet Lily carried something new with her, a quiet confidence that shifted the way she moved through her days, an invisible thread of courage woven into her every step. Despite her simple wardrobe and well-worn shoes, there was a subtle change in Lily's posture. At work behind the supermarket checkout, she stood a little straighter, greeting customers with an ease that came not just from experience but from a renewed sense of self. The years of long shifts and patient endurance were still there, etched into her hands and soft lines around her eyes, but so was something more powerful: pride. One morning, as she arranged goods on the conveyor belt, her phone buzzed with a message that made her pause. It was an email from the mayor's office, elegantly worded and filled with gratitude. They commended her bravery in reporting the hazards at Seabreeze and praised her role in prompting safety reforms. The letter went on to invite her to participate in upcoming community discussions focused on consumer rights and workplace dignity. Her heart swelled. Recognition without fanfare, but imbued with genuine respect. Later that day, Lily walked through the heart of town, weaving past familiar faces and small shops. The sun cast a warm glow, and the spring air carried the scent of blooming jasmine, a comforting reminder that life moved forward, even after difficult moments. As she approached the corner where the Seabreeze Resort stood, she paused briefly. The once glittering facade now displayed a large sign near the entrance proclaiming, "Committed to safety and respect, new management and policies in place." Workers could be seen repainting sections of the building, replacing worn fixtures, and upgrading entrances, the visible mark of change. Lily's fingers gently touched the strap of her tote, and a soft smile spread across her lips. The resort no longer felt like a symbol of exclusion but a testament to what could be achieved through standing up for what is right. That evening, as dusk settled, Lily gathered with friends at a local cafe, a small, cozy spot with mismatched chairs and walls adorned with community art. Laughter bubbled around the table, the comfort of shared stories and warm cups of tea weaving a tapestry of connection that Lily treasured deeply. Her friends noticed the shift in her spirit. "You're glowing these days," one said, nudging her playfully. Lily laughed, a sound light and free. "I guess I just learned that dignity doesn't depend on clothes or where you're from. It's something you carry with you." There was a pause as the mood settled into a gentle calm. Then another friend reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You reminded all of us how important it is not to stay silent, not just in fancy places but everywhere." Later, alone in her apartment, Lily sat by the window, a cup of tea warming her hands. She reflected on how far she had come, from a cashier quietly dreaming of a weekend by the sea to a woman whose courage sparked conversation and change. The road ahead remained uncharted, filled with its usual daily struggles and small triumphs. Yet now, when faced with challenges, Lily felt equipped with an inner strength that no luxury hotel could grant. In the quiet moments, she thought of Marley, the rescued dog who had become a symbol of hope. She resolved to volunteer at the local animal shelter, turning her compassion into tangible action. As stars glittered outside her window and the gentle night deepened, Lily closed her eyes and let a profound sense of peace settle within. She didn't have a grand title or status, but she had something far more enduring: the courage to stand tall, the power to speak up, and the steady grace of being true to herself. And that was enough.